As we kickstart this edition of EVConIndia, I, on behalf of the Blue Circle, would like to take a few moments to thank all of our esteemed partners for putting their shoulders to the event. A special thanks to our main sponsors, Log9 Materials and Hero Electric, knowledge partner Alvarez Marcel for creating the white paper, investment partner Indian Angel Network for co-authoring the Startup Ref program, accelerator partner Huddle, and real estate partner JLL. It's been an absolute pleasure working with their teams and getting their valuable support. Also, a big shout out to my team for working all the hours to pull this off together. Welcome, everyone. Thank you, distinguished audience, for joining us, most of whom were CEOs, CXOs, and senior leaders. Many of them are our members and are repeat visitors to our webinars. This is very encouraging and motivates us to provide even higher levels of dialogue. For those of you who are new with us today, India-based startup Blue Circle is the world's first sector-specific opportunity and knowledge exchange networking app for business leaders. It is somewhat like the sector-specific LinkedIn for senior leaders, a space to have meaningful conversations, connect with over 15,000 plus rapidly growing community of like-minded leaders from India and across the globe, exchange high-quality curated content, and access business opportunities across 20 sectors such as e-mobility, energy, real estate, healthcare, logistics, and many more. Those leaders among you who are interested, please to join us. I will share the link to the app in the chat section and will soon be sending out invitations. Coming back to today's discussion, it is a privilege and a pleasure to welcome today's keynote speaker, who is handpicked because of the think input and the rich experience he brings in. Without further ado, I'm pleased to introduce Alexandre Miyahara. He's a CMO and CRO at LogiGo Mobility. He has led teams and projects in Brazil, the US, and Germany. He occupied executive positions at Bosch Group and Xerox. Currently operates the business growth strategy of a Brazilian tier supplier, LogiGo Mobility, in the connectivity and technology segments, spreading solutions for OEMs in Latin America, the USA, and Europe. Alexandre also leads electrification initiatives in Brazil, pursuing a new important launch in 2022 of an all-new brand of BEV, that is battery electric vehicles, a connected and user-centered initiative. And for today's discussion, we will be discussing electrification in the Latin American market, its picture and trends. Now I request Alexandre to please begin the session. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Guten. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm really honored to join this panel and say a little bit about Latin America market. Together, EVCon colleagues and also Blue Circle and Log9. I'm gonna share my screen here, just a second. Okay, so this is very quickly a little bit about me. I'm a mechanical engineer with executive background on executive MBA background and international MBA on Lisbon MBA and MIT Law School. And formally, as Guten said, I developed my career at Bosch and ZF Groups. And currently I'm at LogiGo Mobility. This is a tier supplier under connectivity sector. And we are starting up BEV products to spread out in Latin America, starting with Brazil. In the bottom side, you have a QR code. This is my LinkedIn profile, so we can connect and get closer. So feel free. About the agenda, this is a short agenda. I want to run and cover Latin America overview, electrification figures in the region, regional drivers and movers, and finally, a question and answers. This is an overall picture of Latin America countries. You can have as a main output as biggest economies are Brazil and Argentina. I'm bringing here a few information like population, GDP, but also the fleet size running currently. An indicator here, an index, inhabitants per vehicle. Yeah, Brazil has 4, Argentina 3.2, and the rest of the countries much more related to the economy particularities and also the size of the population. As a reference, in US, the habitant per vehicle index is 1.1. So in other words, a lot to develop in the region, to grow, and also to improve business and technology. To talk about electrification, it's important to start saying about energy source matrix. So in Latin America, currently, especially in Brazil, actually, it has a strong renewable network available, strongly based on hydraulic and biomass, mainly ethanol, sugar, cane. So 48% of Latin America energy source matrix is already renewable, and 33% of this is related to transportation sector. Behind of transportation sector, this is a breakdown of how the fuel are behaving, and you can see that 24% is biomass, ethanol based, and biodiesel. In this slide, we are bringing additional information related to the policies and incentives in the region to reduce emissions, consumption, and to target a more sustainable sustainability strategy on transportation side. So fuel economy, emissions, funding, fuel, modal shifts, and information technology. So all of those boxes here are specific and individual legislation agendas that Brazil and other countries are pursuing until 2030 to improve and get closer to a more sustainable strategy. The right side, you have in the top light vehicles, and the bottom trucks, basically. You can see that biomass is led by ethanol, but flex fuel as well. So a big share of ethanol behind of gasoline here, and then we have this flex fuel technology here. This is leading the trends and the strategy of fuel matrix for passenger car mainly. Something similar happens to trucks when we have the biodiesel as well increasing a little bit. Okay, flex fuel and all those policies are fine. What about and why electrification? Yeah, we have a nice picture of renewable sources. So I'm bringing then a few economical facts. So because of the pandemic, but also other economical factors from worldwide, but also domestic-wise, new vehicles price have been increasing by 40%. Brazilian interest rate evolved from minimum of 2% to 13%. Fuel prices increased a lot as well. Freight costs by sea or local road freights have been increasing a lot as well. We have the Forex impacts, and also in 2022, elections bringing uncertainty into the whole economy. So a not so stable economy landscape, but all of this is to explain that the families are looking and searching for more convenient, sustainable, and economic-wise smart solutions to handle. And this is because the habits have changed. Because of pandemic, digitalization has speed up a lot. Connectivity, a relevant increase, access, and 5G. So most of the companies have been investing a lot on digitalization, digital transformation from culture-wise, but also in the processes and so on. Last mile deliveries increased strongly. During the pandemic, that was the only way to get goods. But even after the lockdowns, this habit kept the same. So people are still buying a lot by internet, and this increased in a very strong rate. Shared economy, and I'm bringing an example of Uber and micro mobility models. This increased a lot here in Brazil as well. ESG agenda, newcomers coming to our market, mainly Chinese brands, are arriving by themselves or associating to other local companies. EV by itself, the EV concept has a shortened value chain compared to the internal combustion engines, and this enable startups and new companies to enter this business in a easier way. You know? Not only big old companies like traditional OEMs, but now startups can also play the game. Global platforms are designing the scenario of the traditional OEMs cars here. So led by European OEMs, enhanced electrified models. The models we have in Brazil follow more or less what they have in Europe. So there's no other way. The models launched in Europe, they will come to Brazil as well. And also the agenda of emissions to be reduced by 30% until 2030 in Latin America. A little bit about global perspective. According to Ernst Young, until 2033, electrified vehicles will surpass internal combustion engine-based models. And 2045, non-electric vehicle sales shall drop to less than 1%. In the right side, you have a few pictures of global OEMs investments on R&D, production, and also battery development. This is also reflected in Latin America. Also considering global electrification volumes behavior, this is exponential. Yeah, this community knows very well how this is increasing, but the same trend is happening in Brazil and Argentina and the rest of Latin America in a much lower scale, but following the same trend. I'm bringing here Chinese market. As you know, this is a well-developed EV market. They have more than 50 EVs brands. And one important point here is most of them are approaching strongly Latin America. They are trying to come up and try to make the market. A few examples are GAC, Chery, and BYD recently. They are coming strongly, but most of those EV brands in China, they are not big ones. They are mid-size or even small ones. And Chinese market does not require so strong safety requirements like Europe or Latin America. Latin America follows safety requirements agenda of Europe. So features like ESC, airbags, most of those companies don't have currently, but they are investing. And then in a near future, they can be enabled to come to Latin America as well. Latin America, from raw material perspective for battery development, is very rich. Actually, the reserves and production, the countries of Latin America, Brazil is leading, but the other countries are too strong as well. And BYD, for example, they are bringing a gigafactory to Brazil to produce lithium batteries and also to sell to other OEMs. So In the end of the day, this is a good momentum for new EVs and battery players to start up the thing here. The reserves are strong, and the economy for newcomers from abroad is very open. This is the overall picture of Brazilian production and sales. As you can see, Brazil is in the top 10 biggest volumes in worldwide, much lower than China and US for sure, and India as well, but is still relevant. Still talking about volumes, this is a landscape of electric vehicle behavior. This is a sales forecast, and this is year to date, first quarter of 2022. Yeah, so the perspective is to keep the growth rate as exponential comparing to the last few years, and the landscape for electrification is strong. In the right side, you can have also the battery electric vehicles, but also hybrid ones. Toyota and Japanese OEMs are pursuing this as a first step, a strategy to pursue electrification in America. And European ones, they are targeting battery based EVs. This is a pricing analysis of the market. In the left side, you have the internal combustion engine pricing range of a few brands in Brazil, the bigger brands. And in the right side, you have the correspondent or equivalent EV version of each one. Yeah. Sometimes you have the same model, sometimes not. Then I put something closer here. The message of this slide is that considering the internal combustion engine portfolio and the operational structure and cost they have established in Brazil, you can perceive that there is a gap between 100 Brazilian reais and 150 Brazilian reais, that it's a good window for newcomers to establish operations and try to make the market here. Yeah, we understand that the traditional OEMs cannot reduce those prices because of EBIT, but also they will cannibalize with ICE mass production, mass volumes they have currently here. So strategically wise, they cannot reduce so much the prices. Here are a few launches we just had in Latin America. Important to mention that this Caoa Cherry is an example of association of a Chinese brand with a Brazilian brand, very strong from dealership point of view. They just released a BEV small car, A car, and this is a very important launch recently. Renault is doing the same, and also GAC. From a long run perspective, taking into account the TCO and TCO because of the economic perspective I just shared with you, 2030 is the inversion point of this curve. Yeah, Brazilian market and volumes will enable competitiveness and accessibility to the population to really strengthen the growth rating here. In the right side, you have segment C showing the same perspective. And this slide I'm bringing here a longer run sales forecast landscape looking to 2035. Left side is passenger cars, right side is commercial vehicle. It's not only BEV, but several other models of electrification here. Complementary to the EV itself, we are considering an ecosystem. Brazilian consumer behavior is not only focused on the sustainability point of view because of the electrified vehicle, but additional technologies can compose as boundary complementary technologies for this ecosystem. So mobility as a service is very, how can I say, early stage in Latin America, but lots of innovation hubs and startups are working on that, associating with big groups. And in a soon future, probably we're gonna have this as a strong feature shaping the market as well. Sharing features, carpooling, micromobility, enhancing a lot. Target A-cars or low-speed EVs because of urban mobility, but also the vehicle prices. And finally, but not least, the carbon credit benefits. Those 6 pillars shall compose also the EV ecosystem for the future. And this is a final landscape about drivers and movers. I tried to capture here a few aspects that we have been discussing with several government affairs and also colleagues from the segment. So regulation of CO2 straightening, global emissions regulations getting more restrictive worldwide, and Latin America just follow Europe, for example, and then the rules applied over there applies here at the same way. Shared economy, community economy, battery costs getting down. In an optimal scenario, like I've shown to you, passenger cars shall reach 62% of electrified vehicles and trucks on 32% by 2035. So a strong share of electric vehicles for future. Not following exactly developed markets, but even though a huge increase of the volumes. Infrastructure, it's another important point here because of the charging stations, mainly because of interest rate and listed companies, stocks, and so on and so on. Currently, Brazil is not receiving a lot of investments from government side, but there is a huge wave coming from the private equity, private companies investing a lot on infrastructure by themselves, connecting itself and promoting the electrification of the roads here, mainly in São Paulo and the southwest of Brazil. Global OEMs and platforms, like I told you, Volkswagen, Stellantis, GM, Renault, Nissan, they are leading the global platform strategy and what is have been established in Europe or US. They do the same in Latin America, not instantly, but 1 or 2 years later, the thing happened in Brazil as well. And finally, tax benefits. I've shown you the agenda, but daily new discussions have been in place in the government, parliament, and other organisms. And we understand that this is very important to make this inertia moves and to reach the agenda in 2030. This is what I had to show to you. Please feel free if you have questions. I will be glad to answer and chat a little bit.
Thank you, Alexandre. Very thorough presentation, I must say. I'll quickly get on to the Q&A section. There's a question from Akshay. He's written, worldwide electric vehicle sales are increasing at a rate of 98% per year, while in Latin America, the average sales growth is lower than 75%. Are governments not pushing more for this, or are the customers not yet comfortable to purchase? What can be done to push this forward?
Yeah, from my perspective, I think that the private initiative shall take the lead on this movement. The legislation agenda is strong enough, but the point is much more related to investment, right? Like I told you, innovation hubs and big companies are associating itself to promote investments on infrastructure, but also bringing newcomers and new brands in Brazil to foment electrification.
Interesting, thank you. Second question is, are there initiatives set up by the Latin American governments for Indian players, or let me add any other player outside of Latin America, to export to this market?
For exportation? Yeah, there are two, I think from exportation point of view, the West Coast, Chile, and the other coast, Brazil, are the main gates to get in Latin America. I think that the most important point here is related to tax benefits. The importation taxes and importation costs are pretty much the same to access any country of Latin America, but government is placing lots of incentives, making importation taxes to zero, and other taxes that ICE has today, they are eliminating in a short term for electrical vehicles. So this is enabling mainly Chinese companies to get over here, and probably a potential to other markets as well.
Thank you. So you're saying that Brazil and Chile are the two countries which international players should look into get into?
Yeah.
So I'll go on to the next one. Shwarya is asking, reports say plug-in hybrid electrics account for 2/3 of EVs sold in Latin America in 2021. Is this because of range anxiety? How effective are hybrids from reducing carbon emissions perspective?
The hybrid strategy here is, I can say that it is stronger than battery EVs, mainly because of the energy source matrix. This is very based on agroeconomy and sugarcane, and then ethanol. Ethanol and flex fuel products are very strong, and in a short term, for the main OEMs, considering their operational costs and so on, this is the more smart way to move as an interim step, looking for sustainability. Yeah, so they have huge operational plants here to produce engines, and also all the setups of the manufacturing assembly plants, and to move from this stage to 100% electric vehicles, that there will be a, how can I say, interim step moving to hybrid. And after 2030, our perspective is that the electric vehicle with battery will be stronger than the next 5 years.
Interesting, thank you. I'll come to the last question. This is a person because it's anonymous. Mexico is the only Latin American country that manufactures EVs. Why is that? How can this work in India's favor?
Yeah, Mexico actually is Latin America, but it's North America. It's a kind of guardian of US, and mainly because of volume and mass production strategies. I think that makes sense, yeah, to in a short term to have a more scale and to produce batteries and the cars over there is strategically cost saving wise a priority. Brazil is the second one, considering Latin America, and then Argentina. The other countries, currently, they don't produce cars or batteries, but for sure in the future, they are for sure a land of opportunity to do that as well.
Great, looking forward. And we hope those opportunities get posted on Blue Circle application as well. And we'll wait for your response or your post there. Great. So thank you very much for an insightful and engaging session, Alexandre. It was a privilege to hear you. And our guests and I have been hooked on till the end and have taken home several nuggets. And thank you to the leaders in the audience for joining us and for staying till the end and for always sharing excellent questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.